Before you watch this video, I just wanted to apologize for the audio. I had my mic mounted to my Milwaukee heated jacket. I did not realize it was going to sound like I was crumpling paper the entire time it was on there. So the first half of the video, there is a horrendous noise that you'll hear sometimes, and I apologize. The second half of the video, there are heaters running because it has gotten so cold here. So I had to run these loud torpedo heaters. So again, I apologize for the audio quality in this video, but thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy these audio build logs. I'm going to try and keep them going as long as people seem to be interested, and as long as the view count and subscriber count goes up, I'll keep doing it. Thanks. Check it out. Day one of the audio build log, sort of repair log on the 2020 Camry that I did, I don't know, a few months back, but this one was an odd one. This customer called me a while back, told me that he had a 2020 Camry, sent me pictures of it, nice looking car, and he wanted to put an audio system in it. The problem is he already had the equipment, which normally I will not do walk-in equipment. It just never goes well. It causes problems, things don't work. But the equipment he had was so kind of out there, he got me a little intrigued. Now, when I say the equipment's out there, he had a very, very high-end DB drag kind of equipment, which is SPL competitions. He had, thousands and thousands of dollars of equipment that at first he told me had never been used. It was all in the box. Everything was, he had purchased it years ago and never really used it. So the equipment he had was actually pretty old. Like, I want to say 5 to 7 years old. So I was like, well, that's odd. Why does somebody have this stuff? But again, I'm intrigued. So I listened to the story and he tells me. So I'm like, yeah, send me what you have and the models, and let me kind of see what's going on here. Because it's a brand I really wasn't too familiar with. And that brand is Digital Designs, which has been around for a long time, and I know who they are, but I've never really used their equipment because they're not a big name around Indiana. That's the install that I ended up with, and that's some equipment. That amplifier is what we would call a surfboard amp. This is the Digital Designs M5, 10,000 watt amplifier, nice amp, very cool. Has dual zero gauge inputs, dual zero gauge ground and power. Up here we had the Digital Designs SS4B 4-channel. And what threw me for the loop was the 10,000 watt amp was kind of a, really? In a 2020 Camry? But then the subwoofers, that's where it got kind of weird. The subs he has weigh, I believe, 130 pounds a piece. And I honestly don't even know what the models of them are. I couldn't tell you. But DD, Digital Designs, was known where when you get subs, you can order them. And you can have them custom made with whatever color cone, dust cap. I don't know what those things are. I just know that they about gave me a hernia trying to pick them up and put them in enclosure. But they're huge, and again, have no place in a 2020 Camry. Now, before anybody says, Cave, you as the installer, it's your responsibility to let customers know if they're doing something they shouldn't. And that's true, and I did. I've never tried so hard to not make money in my life with this guy. I spent a good month, probably over a month, trying to talk him out of this. In the end, I lost the argument, and I told him all the dangers, and one of those dangers being this car will not physically deal with this much pressure and this much bass. And to keep any trunk space, which you want to have some trunk space, I can't give the subs the airspace that they really, really want. And on top of that, the electrical requirements are going to be astronomical. Something that this Toyota is just not going to be able to provide. So we put in a whole lot of stuff. It's running a 340 amp Ohio generator alternator. It's running full zero gauge wire ran throughout all the way to the back to the first ever I've ever used sodium battery from Limitless Lithium, which I will say impressed the hell out of me. That battery is amazing. It keeps his voltages up at 14 volts banging hard. It's crazy how good that sodium battery is. But as you can see, that all the wiring required was insane because this amp has dual 0 gauge. So we beefed up the alternator, put in the secondary, also got battery isolator. Then over here we have the LC7i because he's running off the factory radio. So for me to grab signals, the LC7i is feeding out to the M5, which is actually running at half ohm. Not supposed to be half ohm, but I talked to Digital Designs. They told me it'll work because his sub configuration he actually has 4 of those subs, because then I found out that this stuff was installed in an SUV at one point by another shop out of Indianapolis, and they did such a horrible job that he had them take it all out. So he had 4 12s, which allowed the wiring to be done to a 1 ohm load, but running 2, I'm stuck at a half ohm. So once I found out the equipment had been used in another vehicle, I was like, oh no, which made this install go south real quick. We also did custom speaker pods, door pods on the front and the rear, which look really cool, but we had to do some changes because the speakers that he had were all damaged and messed up from the previous install. So all of his mids and highs were upgraded to audio control. So these are the rear doors, because all of his Digital Designs mids and highs, they were all messed up. I can't remember what was going on, but we had tweeters that were completely destroyed and pushed in and concaved. Then we have the front doors where we've got this nice 3-way setup, audio control. The install, I went as simple and as clean as I could, making everything mounted and somewhat accessible. And that's what we got there. So why is it back? Well, because what I was afraid of happened. Those subs are destroying things, including the box. That's a prefab box. I did not build that box because, again, the budget did not allow for me to build a box. I'm very expensive. So the box is a HD, it's a heavy duty, 1-inch thick, full SPL style, giant slot port box. And it's made for big subs, but not that big. So the pressure is blowing the box apart, and now it's creating a horrible noise, which I have a fix. I'm gonna be lining all the seams with aluminum, but we're also going to go ahead and put in the new Sony Mobile ES radio, which I really wish we would have did this originally, because now that requires me to pull apart this rear end, because the LC7i is how all the signals are getting. Do you see where this is going? This could get really bad. Oh, and did I mention I have to have it done in 2 days? So today's Thursday, and this has to be done by Saturday. And that's why I was working so late on this truck, because I got behind and I knew this was coming. So now we're looking at a couple more late nights. All right, so it wasn't as horrible I was thinking, so I'm very glad for that. I did split it. So I do everything usually as like a jigsaw puzzle, but you know, sometimes I screw myself. But no, this one was built total jigsaw puzzle. So pulled out the bottom sections, then pulled off that amp and got the half panel there pulled. So I can unhook the LC7i. I'm gonna use those RCAs. I'm just gonna have to do barrel connections to those because they're already running up and through and to here, and I'm not gonna pull all that apart just to run the lines direct. So now that that's all taken care of, I've got the fuses pulled. I did just listen to it and listen to what the problem is, and it's the top of the box where the slot port is has completely separated from the slot port, and it is just rattling and vibrating viciously. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the subs, which is gonna be interesting because, like I said, they're well over 100 pounds, and you know, doing by myself is gonna suck. But I'm gonna pull the subs and do all the bracing today so that all the chemicals can cure as long as possible, because I'm layered up in my shop because it is so cold. It is freezing. So I've got to take time off. After this car is done, after the truck is tuned, I'm closed. I have to, because I've got to go get the heater and get this all, I got to run the electric and get all that taken care of, because this is unbearable. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get this place heated up, either go get a bunch of my torpedo heaters. I've got like 5 of those, and just have them rocking, because the adhesives that I'm gonna use on the aluminum is not gonna cure in this cold temperature. All right, I apologize for the noise, but it's cold, so I've got heaters blowing. But there are the subs. So when I said how heavy they were and ridiculous, that's why. Those things were a bear to get out. So I got them out, got them over here. I checked, I can see where the top is actually flexing. It's kind of separating. So I'll show you what my fix is gonna be. And if this doesn't fix it, there's no way to fix it. But after this, the wood would literally have to split in half. So what we're gonna do is I have this 2" by 2" right angle. I've pre-drilled, got all the little bolts, and it's gonna go up in the corners and be screwed in. Along with it will be this power grab, Loctite, ridiculous adhesive. It's supposed to be like, you know, construction grade, builder, blah, blah, blah. I was told this would work. One of my buddies gave me this idea, said they've done it before, and that this pretty much makes it unbreakable. So the wood would have to split itself, and it does totally make sense. So I'm gonna bead the hell out of this onto this and in the corner, then seat this up there and then screw it all in. Do that on both top sides. And then I'm gonna check. I think I'm gonna go ahead and do the bottom side as well, because I might as well. The energy is just gonna transfer to the next weakest point. And I'm gonna do the back corners, it looks like. Outside of that, there's nothing else that I could do. So if it gives, he's just gonna have to have the whole system pulled, and I would go with different subs personally, but we'll cross that bridge if we have to. And yes, it's loud in here, because I went and got propane, which was ridiculous. For those 2 propane canisters, $125, but went and got those. I put the mic right here, hopefully so you can hear it better, but at least it's bearable. My fingers were going numb in there earlier. I mean, it was impossible to work. So at least now I think it's like 50 degrees in there, so I can at least work. So I'm gonna go at it for at least 3 or 4 hours today. And then I'll call it a night. Once it gets too late, it gets so cold outside, there's no chance to keep it warm. And I'm not gonna just sit here and burn through propane. So once I get these corners in and glued, I'll pretty much be done anyway, because it all needs to set. So I'm gonna go ahead, crawl in the car, get on this. Hopefully I don't make a giant mess. I'm gonna call it a day. I've got all the brackets and everything that I can put in that enclosure. It's definitely basically a Band-Aid. It's not the right way to do it. The right way would be to pull the enclosure and put the right size enclosure in. But physically, that's not possible, because you can't fit the right size enclosure in this car. So the right way would be to use different subs and put in an enclosure that would fit the car. But neither of those are options. So the only option I have is to try and make what's in here work and not nuke itself. There you can see all the way across, so there's no possible way that will be moving again. Then I went ahead and added down to the bottom, because when I finished the install, the bottom started to have problems. So I toned it down, but I had already put bracketing on the inside of the port there. I mean, it was already showing signs of trouble. And I let the customer know. I'm like, hey man, you can't go past this point. If you do, it's just physically gonna blow itself apart. But I think he went past that point. So I did extra brackets just sporadically in the corners and in places, but on both sides, I've got a full bracket running the whole length of that port, and I've got it down there at the bottom. Again, this is in no way a reflection of my normal work. I know that this is a Band-Aid. I'm doing everything I can to make what he has work. I'm gonna tune it to where I can tell the car is physically at its max, because unless you want that car to leak, because the back window seals, you guys have no idea. You haven't seen it. You have no idea how bad this car flex. It's painful. It's painful base when it's tilted out. I mean, my daughter sat in it and she jumped out, and she's been building cars, you know, her whole life. She's been listening to my cars. She said that that thing was not even enjoyable. It was just so violent that she had to get out because it scared the hell out of her. So yeah, full tilt, that thing's not even a stereo system anymore. It's just a violent jackhammer that wants to destroy everything, including your soul. So I will set it up to be as loud as this car will allow it to be, where it still sounds like bass and not just violence. And that's it. Not real proud of what I had to do tonight, but it's the only thing I could do. I'm pretty sure you can tell I'm not real proud of it. But we'll let that cure up, and then tomorrow, pull the dash, do the radio, and then I need to throw a little bit more tune on that truck tomorrow. I didn't want to mess with it today because I didn't want to get this gooey shit all over my hands and then touch that guy's new interior. And hopefully be able to put the subs back in that Camry Saturday morning, because I want that stuff to dry as long as possible. And I don't know if it's bad on the glue of the subwoofer, like Liquid Nails is, like we didn't know back in the day. If you didn't know that, if you seal the inside of your sub enclosure with Liquid Nails and then you drop your subs in and screw them in, you'll find that your spiders or your cones will start to separate and you'll blow subs. We didn't know back in the old days what was happening, but the Liquid Nails gases off this really nasty fume, and the fume actually was eating away at the glue that was being used to hold down the spiders and everything. So I try not to drop subs in if I don't know exactly what's gonna be gassed off. So that's it, long talk. I'm going home. See you tomorrow.